check. Yep. All right. Let's go ahead and get the show started. Here we go, Rob.
All right.
Welcome to the New Media Show, where each Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, UTC +4, Todd Cochran and Rob Greenlee take their over 30 combined years of leadership in the podcasting space to discuss, dissect, and deconstruct the current podcasting news, forecasts, trends, and predictions. Now here are your hosts, Academy of Podcasting Hall of Famers, Todd Cochran and Rob Greenlee.
Well, Rob, not 3 o'clock, but 3:07. It took 5 minutes for the transcoder to get started today so we could stream live.
Sometimes the price that you pay for going live, sometimes things don't work that great.
That's right. You know, YouTube was sitting there saying, hey, we're ready. We're ready.
That's right.
Hey, everyone, welcome to the New Media Show. We're back at you. And Rob, you know something?
What's that?
Holy crap. They love people. These big companies, they love spending money.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes.
Oh, my goodness. Man,
Yeah.
you know, of course, Amazon has got a pile of cash,
Well, of course,
Pile cash. And they just went on a buying spree. So between Spotify and Amazon, holy cow.
Yeah.
Who's next?
I mean, Amazon's been, they've been running at the podcasting market pretty fast and furious, haven't they?
Yeah.
Here in a pretty short period of time. So it's impressive. You know, it's Wondery, and now it's Art19, and now they're doing some licensing deals.
Yeah.
Actually, I might say that the licensing deal for SmartLess, it was a $60 to $80 million non-exclusive deal. That's
Right.
an interesting change, but it's also including ad sales. So that's what's different between that deal and Spotify's deal with Joe Rogan, which was just a licensing deal, but Spotify supposedly isn't getting any advertising revenue. So it's an interesting contrast between all these deals and these big companies, you know, lining up deals. And if you haven't heard of SmartLess, it's basically done by 3 famous Hollywood actors, right?
And once again, indie podcasters are tossed to the curb.
Well, I don't know if that's true, but yeah.
So, Rob, is considering they got 80 million, you and I should at least at a minimum, get $1 million for this show per year. At least a
should.
minimum. That's what that's what it's worth, right?
Well, Todd, get on that. Get a deal going.
So let me see. Let me just do some quick calculator math here, and let's see how we would work this if we were going to do a deal. So I'm taking the number of subscribers we have, and I divide that by 1,000,
Mm-hmm.
and I multiply that by, let's just say 35, and I times that by how many weeks of the year is there? 52.
Yeah.
52 weeks. So I take that evaluation and see we can at least get 8 times money, right? 8 times money. So let's say 8 times. We're not going to settle for 3 times revenue,
Right.
or 4 or 5. We're going to go for 8, right? We'll go for 8 times revenue, and we can probably support how many ads in this show? Do you think we do an hour and a half? We can probably support
do like maybe 4 or 5.
4.
Like
So
that,
so let's multiply that. So hey, we almost get there. $873,000 valuation on this show if we have 4 ad spots in.
Right.
Yeah. So and hey, 100,000 for you and me just because we're talent on loan from God or whatever we want to call it. So I stole that from Rush
create an
Limbaugh.
outline for this for that, Todd. I'll actually create an outline for the show for that.
So yes, we could ask for $1 million for this show. Now, if I take that down to 3 times revenue, then I multiply. Let's go to, we might get 300K. And how much do we earn right now? 0. A big donut.
Well, I don't think we're trying very hard either.
No,
Yeah.
we're not. We're not at all. And we do
Yeah.
get a random donation on the PayPal link. So, I think $25 here or there. So anyway, wow. So again, they
So I must say that the deal that Amazon did with Art19 is not exactly
no, not a surprise.
a big surprise, and it's mainly because of the relationship that Wondery had with Art19. So, and when they acquired Wondery, they got that relationship with Art19. So
Yeah.
that's what came along with that. So this doesn't surprise me
So
entirely.
just before everyone leaves us, Podcast Awards nominations open tomorrow. And actually, if you're watching the website late tonight,
Right.
it may actually kick a little earlier because I don't want to stay up to midnight. That's the dealio. So,
Yeah.
but we've had a rush in the last. I sent out an announcement yesterday to about 1,000 podcasters, and I said, "Hey, you haven't registered yet." Now 1,000 haven't registered. I wish they would. Another 1,000, but we've had a rush over the last 24 hours. People realize, oops, we're almost ready to go. And but we will leave the registration open, so you're not locked out if you don't get in by midnight tonight.
Yeah, and I also heard that the British Podcast Awards are going to be having a in-person awards ceremony coming up on July 10th.
When you have a big sponsor, I think you can probably do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have someone do a big underwriting,
Well, I think they have multiple sponsors, I believe.
So,
But yeah, I thought things are coming back into the in-person world. I know I've been working on trying to book some of our guests for the new media show at Podcast Movement.
I've seen those emails, and boy, if we get everyone that we think we might get, we're going to have one heck of a lineup.
Yeah.
Can we announce the one person who has confirmed?
Well, actually, I have 2 people that have confirmed.
Oh, do we want to announce those 2, or you want to wait?
We can probably announce both of them since they're both confirmed.
All right.
So we have Danny Pina is going to join us, Hall of Fame podcaster. So he's going to fly in really primarily just to do the event with us. So
fantastic.
So, and then a fellow by the name of Bart Rossellini, who is a senior VP of growth at Veritone One, which is a huge podcast ad sales agency.
Yeah.
That's going to join us up on stage. I'm hoping to spark some conversation about some conversation about what's happening on the buying side of podcasting. So that was the point of that invite. And then having a successful podcaster like Danny up on stage to kind of add a little contrast to that too, is a good thing. And then the other couple of guests that we can't announce quite yet because they haven't been confirmed yet, but they will add another dimension to the conversation that will be very interesting to have them both on stage at the same time.
Oh, yeah. Woo-hoo! So it's close. I think it's looking good for both.
Mm-hmm.
I do. And some of you will have many questions, at least for one you will have. That will spark it. I know who's getting all the questions.
Well, and I've been getting a lot of questions from both of these companies' PR teams. I'll just put it to you that way. So so they have an idea of what to expect. So,
and if you 2 companies are watching, hey, welcome to the show and checking us out, doing your due diligence. But yes, so let's just talk about the last Podcast Movement. We had 600 at our live event.
Yep, and then it was streamed live as well, and that's what this one's going to do too. I don't know if it's going to be streamed in a public stream or if it's only going to be streamed just to
the virtual ticket
holders only, right?
But we will record it and at least have the audio version that will be put out publicly after the event. So we don't ever ask, they never demand exclusivity on the content. We'll put it out as a regular episode.
Yeah, and I think it would be important to do that. So, especially if we get who we're trying to get up here.
And I must mention today, my daughter's not watching, but today's my daughter's birthday. Happy birthday, Anna. She's 25 today. So I just had to throw that in there.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Right. That is exciting.
It's kind of funny
That's for
because the first text I woke up this morning full and well planning on to text her happy birthday, and she had woken up 3 hours before me, or maybe that was she was going to bed. She says, "Dad, as a reminder, it's my birthday." And I'm like, what's that? What's that? I forget a lot of things, but I usually don't forget birthdays.
Right.
I might forget anniversaries and that kind of stuff, but I forget birthdays.
That says a lot, Todd. Right.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't know if we want to talk a little bit more about the Art19 deal, but that's an interesting acquisition. I think a lot of people in the podcasting space, especially independent podcasters, probably aren't that familiar with Art19 since they've been catering to a certain niche of the podcasting market. I don't know if you wanted to share your knowledge of them a little bit.
Well, they've been a mover and shaker in the space, and they have a lot of DAI integration. They do a lot of programmatic. They do host threads. They do a lot of advertising. So really what Amazon has done here is an acqui-hire of a brand and a platform to be able to do original content if they want and sign deals like they just did to bring in big name talent. Now, I don't think I have maybe a handful of podcasters I've migrated off Art19, but usually I don't get many of their customers coming back. Once in a while. I don't think I've had too many leave to go there either, because it's kind of it's a platform that I shouldn't say it caters just to big shows. It doesn't, but the majority of the shows that over there are big.
Yeah, and they're from usually pretty large podcasting networks or media companies, is who their client base is built, and they hired Lex Friedman from Midroll to run their ad sales. So, and that I think kind of built a little different model around Art19.
Mm-hmm. And
so they've been able to offer a complete suite of services to these larger companies on the podcasting side, which is, let's be honest, Todd, a lot of the major media companies have needed some expertise in helping them sell advertising into podcasts. Because a lot of them do have maybe some ad sales people involved in their media companies, but maybe not specific with the talent that's needed or the skills to sell podcast advertising.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that the deal's rumored to have been more than Midroll, too. That they spent more money than what it costs to buy Midroll. And if that's the case, that's a big number, big payday for that team over there.
Yeah.
So
there wasn't any number. Actually, there hasn't been much information put out about the deal really at all.
Yeah, just a rumor in one of that. It's said to have raised or cost them more than what, and I don't remember what the number was for Midroll. I don't know how much they spent on Midroll. I can't remember. But see here, Amazon is not public, are they? Are they a publicly held company? I think
definitely.
Yeah, so we'll probably find out at some point down.
Stock trading price of like $3,600 a share.
That's
something
crazy.
Like that.
So we'll probably find out in some SEC filing, but what they paid for them. But regardless, it's they have come on like a fire truck in a hurry.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So it's impressive, and they're doing a lot of hiring too. I see, they're looking to hire people in the podcast. It's just amazing to me how many jobs there are out there now in the podcasting space. There are a lot.
There is a lot, and I think that we keep looking at this. The major players are being picked off. what does that mean? How does their model change over time? What doesn't mean for a company like us? I guess time will tell.
Mhm.
But I don't think it'll change. I don't think it has that much of an impact, to be kind of honest with you, because none of these other mergers and acquisitions have had an impact.
Yeah, I think that, the acquisition of Art19 doesn't dramatically impact the broader podcasting space. I don't think it does. It's a company that was very focused on kind of a niche part of the market. It certainly doesn't. It wasn't necessarily that competitive even to us, Todd.
No,
It wasn't catering to a $5 hosting account
right.
type of customer. So that's not who their target audience was or target users were. So yeah, I mean, having them get sucked up by Amazon doesn't really change the dynamics of the podcasting market dramatically. Mm-mm.
But one thing I'm finding, and without going into too much detail, because I don't want you to go or someone else go poaching, I've been getting probably over the last month, I've probably had 4 or 5 meetings with, how do I want to say this without being mean? TV networks that aren't necessarily on channel 18 in a cable lineup. They're, somebody that's in at, 356, and they maybe have two or three cable channels. And so we're seeing, at least I'm seeing, a lot of television networks now deciding to execute on a podcast strategy and really coming into the conversations knowing exactly what they want to do, having a very informed, it's not like they're doing exploratory. They said, this is what we want to do. We do this, 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 and this. We will launch this, this, and this number of shows. We want this and this and this as features. And, so I'm seeing a lot of that. Now, what's going to be interesting to watch. Oh, and another thing they're doing is we're doing this series, and this series. And we're actually, or another situation was, we've got the rights to this podcast, and this podcast, and we're rolling them up into TV. And I thought, whoa, that's interesting.
Yeah. Going the other way.
The other way. So I do have some opportunity that's presented to me to recommend to them some shows and some specific genres that might be a good fit. So people are shopping for shows. So, if you're a podcaster right now and you fit the genre of content that a certain television network is looking for, you might be primed to moving right into broadcast. So they're saying they're looking at podcasts specifically that are doing audio and video. They're doing live.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't care if it's, if you're sitting around a table. They don't care if you've got a studio. They are looking to, bring some new faces. And you're not getting prime time. You're not going to get the 6 o'clock spot. 30 minutes. Another thing is you got to hit 30 in either 30 or an hour. You got to hit those time hacks, or 52 minutes or whatever it is, the room for commercials. And you're looking to see what floats and what doesn't. So maybe they put you on at 11 o'clock at night, and you get it. You're on for an hour every week for a quarter to see what kind of lift you get. Then maybe you can move down in the time stack if you have popularity. So there's going to be lots of opportunities going forward as people are meshing this media, whereas originally was just audio podcasts. Now it's going to be video, and it's going to be TV. But I don't see this. I see the TV folks doing it more than radio. So when is radio going to start tapping the podcasting core? I just don't see that happening very much on the radio side.
Mm-hmm. Todd, did you see the article and the feature that was talking about how a radio guy out of Australia wrote an article saying how podcasting was going to be dominated by 3-minute audio clips in the future?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Come on. 3-minute clips.
Well,
Okay, I'll take that bet.
his argument was really that as these big listening platforms come out with transcripts and they start applying deep AI technology and machine learning technology to those transcripts, that then they can parse out segments from shows,
Okay.
right, and feature those in search results. And so, but my comment on that is that even if they do that, where would you come up with a fixed number like 3 minutes? I mean, those clips are going to be whatever length they need to be to cover that topic. So it's not, yeah.
Audio
That
Burst.
short really just doesn't have enough value to even.
Audioburst is already doing this. This is, we've worked with Audioburst for years, and they'll take a segment and they'll promote it into a linear stream or a variety of different websites. And it's basically a tease.
Yeah,
it's a teaser to get them back to the original content. And that's where you're going to have a 3-minute tease. You're not going to have 3-minute episodes. Absolutely insane. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Go back to radio.
He's taking them. I mean, if you think about what radio is usually like 3 to 5 minute segments, right? So, my comment back to this I posted on Twitter was that I think this is another one of those examples of radio trying to co-opt podcasting and making what the paradigm has been in radio become what the paradigm is in podcasting.
Well, the DJs
short segment content.
Well, the DJs that don't do talk. So the late Rush, Hannity, Laura Ingraham, all these other individuals, Leo, all these folks that have done radio, talk radio for years, whether it be tech, whether it be news, whether it be politics or whatever. Those shows are wildly successful, wildly successful,
right?
Have millions of listeners, and they go for 3 hours. And sometimes they say the same thing over again the following hour. It just almost sounds like a repeat record sometimes with some of those folks, but or recurring themes. But put on a hit 100 DJ and make him talk for 3 hours or hour and a half or 45 minutes. He can do it, but he's going to have to come up with his own stick.
Right.
The most successful short series podcast on the planet today goes right back to a podcaster started near the beginning, and that's Ming Young Fogarty and the Quick and Dirty Tips Networks and doing 5-minute podcasts. They are the masters.
5 to, I think they're actually 5 to 8 minute.
Okay,
episodes,
5 to 8.
Actually, right.
That is, and there's no intro. There's, hi, how you doing? This is so-and-so, and boom, into the content.
Right.
They don't jibber jabber like we do at the beginning of the show or at the end or in the middle. They stay on. It's scripted. So, here's I've said this to at least 100 radio people. At least 100. And in fact, I had a conversation with a local radio station owner in this town or surrounding town. I better say it that way. And I said, you don't have any local sports. You don't have any. You're just it's nothing that is of community interest. I said, why don't you get a few podcasters to give you 2 or 3 minute segments that you can feed your show, your jocks in the morning, to give a little more variety to the content that they're talking to their audience about. Whether on the nines, every whatever. I think what these radio stations need to do is start looking at podcasters as a source of potential content where they can take segments and feed them into their radio programming. But
yeah, Todd, I don't know that he was necessarily talking about original content being 3 minutes long. I think what he's primarily is linking up the technology of search and how these big like Google and Spotify and potentially Apple could take existing content and parse it out into segments and make those available. He's making this claim that he thinks that once that starts to happen, a lot more consumption will happen around clips, essentially, of content, and as part of the discovery process. So if you look at, I don't agree with him that it's going to be that huge. I think it'll be a sampling thing. It'll certainly grow if they do that. People will consume a 5-minute piece of Joe Rogan or something like that off of a search, just as an example.
Rob, we've already talked about this here and what Google's potential strategy is.
Right.
And for those of you that missed it, again, there's 3 levels. 1, search for your show name. That's easy. Number 2, search for an episode title. And number 3, then when the AI gets smart enough to know when I search for whatever name, let's call it the Acme Dynamite Company. When I search for the Acme Dynamite Company, and Google knows that I've talked about the Acme Dynamite Company and Bugs Bunny on this show, that's going to find that segment and it's going to drop people into the show. I agree with that. But it's going to be in a wrapper that says it came from whatever the show name was. And this is going to be a huge boon and huge growth to podcasters. Is that happening now? No, just on the very, very edge of the surface. But when Google gets smart enough, when the AI gets smart enough, and they can make that core, and we've talked about how podcasters can help themselves for the future by timestamping their content in their show notes. We're going to get Google smart, and they're going to find that article from whatever someone has searched. They're going to find that segment, but it's going to be done in a way where it'll be on Google search results. Oh, what happened? Oh, there we go.
I just popped something up to share with you. I thought you might be entertained by this.
You got to be kidding me.
I just came across that.
The 2021 Radio Today Podcast Awards with Listener will recognize the most innovative individuals or organizations in podcasting from across the Australian media and marketing landscape.
Oh, it's in Australia, right?
Radio Today Podcast Awards. Okay. Podcast host, podcast sales. Oh my God. Okay. So once again, you've got radio co-opting the podcast space.
Right.
I hate to say it. They just do it a little weird down in Australia when it comes to podcasts. How come the Australians don't? How come the radio folks dominate down there? So that's a question for
James Cridland.
That's a question for James. Why does the radio folks dominate? How come the indie podcasters down there get run over?
That's because there aren't that many indie podcasters down there.
Why?
Because they're run over by the culture of radio. Radio drives the media culture in Canada, in Australia. It's the independent podcasting side in those countries is growing. There's no question about that. But it's predominantly dominated by the big radio companies down there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same thing up in Canada too.
Yeah.
With the CBC and the BBC and those up there, everybody thinks about that. And to some degree, that's the case here in the U.S. to some degree.
Yeah.
It's just that we started with a much stronger independent podcaster community to get started with. But, if you think back to even the early days of podcasting, radio has always been right there,
Yeah.
They've always seen it as their market to dominate.
Well, in Australia, maybe. here.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of public radio.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was an interesting announcement that just came out that NPR has now signed a podcast distribution deal with Deezer. Which is interesting from the standpoint of free and open distribution of podcasts. Doesn't really entirely exist at NPR, does it?
Nope.
Yeah. It's just another example of kind of a radio entity kind of having their own rules for things, right?
Yep. Hey, you see a lot of people on live today. Make sure you check in and say hello. Please do that, whether it be on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, or wherever you may be.
Mm-hmm.
I just, I don't know. Everyone's, here's what let me find it. See if I've got some money here. Let me dig in my pocket. Let me see what I've got here for, I've got what's called a Michigan roll. Have you ever heard of a Michigan roll?
That's probably hard to put in your back pocket if it's a roll.
Yeah, Michigan roll. You know what a Michigan roll is? It's all ones.
It's all
okay. That's a Michigan roll.
It's the cheap roll,
right? So, what it is the radio people and everyone guesses what they're smelling. They're smelling money. For those of you listening, I'm waving $1 bills in front of my nose, and probably, who God knows what's been on that money, but.
I mean, Todd, what are we doing? Putting out a podcast for free and have it being open and distributed. We should be charging money for this.
Right.
We should be doing licensing deals with every platform, and they're going to pay us, $1 million. So each of these platforms is going to pay us $1 million for our show to be on their platform. This has been a recurring topic on this show for a long time, right?
Rob, what have I been saying here for this? Okay, we have to go back because we probably talked about this about a year ago.
Yeah, we did.
Because
probably every year.
Because it's an example we're giving you, ladies and gentlemen, is you're getting screwed. Your content is being used for free across all these platforms. You're on Spotify. They get your content for free. You get on Pandora, your content's for free. What would happen?
I mean, look at how much they're paying the Smartless podcast.
What would happen? Oh, I'm just going to throw, we better be careful here. We'll be called revolutionists. We'll be how dare you, do one of these type of numbers. What would happen if 75, 80, 90% of the independent podcaster space say, no, thank you, Spotify. No, thank you, iHeart. No, thank you, Pandora. No, thank you, Stitcher. Say no, thank you. And keep it on maybe, let's say, Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. Let's just say if they did that.
Mm-hmm.
And said, then take the content away from them. No one will do this because it's people will. I'm going to lose audience. No one for the common good will, because if all the indies pulled all their content off all those platforms, then there wouldn't be so much podcast content to listen to on Spotify, and Spotify would have to pay for more content, like they pay music artists, even though they pay them crap. So, if Spotify came to us and said, Todd and Rob, we'd love to license your show on Spotify for $500 a month, I'd say, send me the check. Right? $500 a month. We're on Spotify already, but if I took it off and they wanted the content back, so we'll give you $500 for the show. And if iHeart came to us and said, we want $500 a month, we're not thinking big, we're thinking small numbers.
Right.
And then if Pandora came and said, well, we'll give you $500 a month for your show to be on our platform. Pretty soon, guess what we have? We have a sustainable income without advertising.
Well, you'd probably have to do an advertising.
Well, they
deal
would
for
they
that,
they would
right?
they would wrap advertising around. I'd say you wrap it around,
Right.
put your own ads in there, and do what you
Mhm.
wish. But podcasters won't do that. And again, when will independent podcasters, start getting pissed off about their content? And this came to my attention. I don't know. Really didn't have this concept because I got in the podcasting space just like you did, because it's open and I could be distributed everywhere, and I didn't care where they listen as long as they listen. But as an NAB, and this guy came by the booth and he's talking about producing shows and licensing, and I'm like, there's no licensing in podcasting. I kind of laughed at him. I said, it's open, free distribution, and that individual walked away dumbfounded.
But that's not the case with NPR, though. Right?
No, because they're NPR.
NPR has what? They have like maybe 40 shows, 40 podcasts. That's all that they produce.
So what if you and I go out and say, hey, these 100 shows, we're just going to be just like ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox. We're going to consolidate
Mm-hmm.
one for all, like the Three Musketeers, one for all, and basically say, okay, here's our content. You want the package, you got to pay for the package. Just
Mhm.
like ESPN, how they sell when Disney sells ESPN, they don't just sell one channel, they sell 14.
Right.
And those companies pay big money for that content. And there's some of that stuff, okay, I'm not going to disparage Disney, but some of those channels are probably not so good. But they have to take them because it's part of the package, right?
Right. It's a bundle.
So how big of a number do we need? Do we need 1,000 shows to say we're part of a coalition? You can't have our content unless you license us, and this licensing deal is going to be this much, and then the coalition decides how much of the because it's just like an advertising deal. You've got, and I'm going to use
got to create a network of shows.
Right.
That all align around the same.
the malls.
objective.
Malls are dead, but what did we have in malls? We had a Macy's, we had a Sears, they're out of business. JCPenney out of business. You had these big businesses on the ends, and inside you had all the little stores, right? People
Right.
came to the malls to go to the big stores, but the little stores got the advantage because people walked through the malls, had a shoe store, had a gaming store, had an arcade or whatever.
Yeah.
So you get 8, 9, 10 big shows. They're the anchors, anchor shows. And then
Well,
you
it's
get,
always been the case in podcast networks, right, Todd?
well,
Look
it-
at Twit and Leo Laporte. He's always had like 2 big
Sure.
anchor shows that have anchored the whole network.
but he's never licensed the network for distribution.
Yeah, I would say that's true because he's ad supported, so he's
Right.
trying to drive as many viewers
Right.
and listeners that he can. Right.
So if we get then maybe this is the exit strategy. So everyone listen here. So we collect 100,000 indie podcasters that are never going to get a dime from advertisers because advertisers have done this. They flip.
Todd, you know what? That's pretty much all of the active podcasters in the medium.
So you get 100,000. You get 100,000 indie content creators.
Right.
Now, herding 100,000 people is going to be difficult. You think herding 20 cats is bad. Think about 100,000 podcasters. But if you could get 100,000 podcasters to coalesce under an organization, say, you want our content? You got to pay for the package. And 100,000, that should be worth, we'll give it to you for $1 billion a year. Or 500 million. We'll make you a deal. 500 million a year
Mm-hmm.
for 100,000 shows. And then you take that money. Oh, that's just for Spotify. Tell iHeart you got to pay $250. The whole game changes. yeah, it's an open space, but guess what? I control my media.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting concept, isn't it?
Well, I think you have to ask, well, what would the fallout of that be? Would they
Maybe
tell
they'd
you-
maybe they'd say, screw you, we don't need you.
maybe that points them down the path of doing more with exclusive content,
They're already
And
doing that.
and we create a whole bunch of
They've
podcasting YouTubes.
they've already made a lot of content, second class citizens on their platforms. All these shows that they're licensing, they're promoting the crap out of them. They get
Mhm.
banner space where the indie podcasters don't. It's just random finds. People find it. So it's, again, how much.
It's filler content to them. is what
Yeah,
it
it
is.
is. But guess what? If they're not listening, if those 100,000 podcasts are no longer on Spotify, guess what people are listening to instead of podcasts? They're listening to music.
Mhm.
And there's not as much added value to be on Spotify because those podcasts aren't there anymore. So where do they go listen? They go listen where they, the listeners are going to go where the content is.
Content's available, right?
Oh man,
And
bulletproof
Todd,
jacket
I think
for me.
that the Edison numbers came up showing, I think over this past year that I think it's half of the podcasting market right now is the listeners listen to indie podcasts, and the other half is from the big networks. So, I mean, that would mean that these big music streaming platforms would basically lose half their users or half the listeners that would be actively listening to content on their platforms.
Rob, if I actually came out and stand on a podium and tried to recruit podcasters for this, it would be blasphemy.
Well, Todd, I think you already have right on the show today.
This is not a new topic. You go back in the archives, we said the same exact topic before.
Oh yeah. That's true. Yeah, I think it was more about, the discussion that we had at the time about how music artists look at their distribution of their music, right?
Right.
And comparing that and how television creators and oftentimes video creators look at their content, right? Podcasting is definitely an exception to the rule.
Spotify and these companies are getting a free ride. Free ride.
Yep.
Free ride. Okay, so you go look at your Spotify count. You go look at your iHeart count. Go look at your Pandora count. For some shows, it's going to be less than others or more than others. But what if you tell, hey, I'm leaving Spotify? Spotify listeners, the only place you're going to be able to get me going forward is either on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or wherever we choose.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's the independentpodcasternetwork.com platform.
Well, Todd, I think we talked about it too, but just to refresh people, and I think Joe Rogan's a very good example of what we're talking about here. He was not available off of Spotify before he did that deal. That deal put him on Spotify.
Right.
Just like what NPR just did with putting their podcasts on Deezer.
Yep.
So you're seeing a common thread there of those content creators valuing their content and seeing a business opportunity there.
And the rest of us have been like dogs and our tails wagging. Oh, let's go get on Spotify. Oh, let's go get on this platform. Oh, let's go get over here.
Well, Todd, I still think that the same issues still apply, right? I think shows that are high quality, well produced, have value with audiences. Those are the shows that are probably sitting in a good position to negotiate some sort of a licensing deal.
But they're giving it away right now.
Right. I think that the shows, the 3 million shows out there that have 1 or 2 episodes, there's not a lot to negotiate there.
No. There's nothing there. But there are 400,000 shows, which 95 or 96% of them probably do have something to offer as a collective. This, what I'm talking about here is a major
shift.
Would be a major shift.
Mm-hmm.
And if it got any ground movement, I'm serious about the bulletproof vest.
Well, I don't even know how you would pull it off, really.
Well, you'd have to have someone come in with $1 billion or venture capital. Maybe not that much. Someone's going to have to fund it for a couple of years while we coalesce the podcasters into a consortium. So that's what it's going to take. It's going to take some VC that really wants to screw the man, and the man being all these big podcast distribution points. I just gave someone $1 billion podcast idea, or we just did. We want our 10% consulting fee, please. Or if you're a VC and you're listening to this, Rob and I want to talk to you. Of course, our prospective companies may not be happy about that, but
Right. That's the other part of the equation, right?
Right. But at the same time,
and not all shows are going to want to do it, which
no.
puts it in.
You have to have volume. That's why.
I mean, if you're it's a catch-22 situation, right? If you do this, you might cut down on your revenue opportunities on the advertising side in the short run.
But again, if 97% of the podcasts out there are not getting monetized, what's to lose?
No.
If someone come in with a big pile, a dump truck full of cash, and I told an independent podcast creator, let's say he's got 5,000 listeners per episode, he's not monetizing, and they say, I'm going to pay you $250 a month to not be on 1, 2, 3, 4 platforms. You come over here, bring your content, and you just stay maybe we don't want to kill the shows, so we keep them in, some of the spots that are not being predators in the space, and we put the shows there and then get enough volume. Again, this is where you're going to need enough money to make this deal work. And then maybe, and that's why VCs have risk factors, maybe Spotify comes and maybe Pandora or maybe iHeart comes and say, hey, we like your 1,000, 2,000, 50,000 shows. We want to license it. And we say, okay, come on. Let's do the dance. And there's potential there, but again, you got to front load it with a lot of money to make podcasters to leave certain platforms, and you have to make it so the content's still open. You can't change the openness of the space. You still have to allow. You just say these are distribution points you can't be on, but you can be everywhere else. You can have an open RSS feed. You can have people can subscribe on whatever app they want. And because you can't manually add an RSS feed on Spotify, well, maybe that's how they would counter. Maybe they'd come and say, okay, these shows aren't over here, but if you get their feed, you can drop it and still listen to Spotify. That's maybe how Spotify would do the end around. But if you tell them no, put a block on them. It's pretty easy to block some scrapers. So, I don't know. Yeah. Again, I'm talking crazy here.
Yeah. It's a tough topic.
It's not a tough topic. What it is? It's to me, it's like evolutionary. It's revolutionary again. Let's shake the space up.
That would definitely do that, Todd.
We just need someone. We need someone with a big pile of cash. Now, they could really. Here's what could really happen. Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Amazon could say, "All right, we're going to throw $500 million at this every year, and we're going to give 50,000 podcasters a little smack of money, and say your show gets produced here first, it's released here, then it goes out publicly a week later, they could change the whole dynamic with a check write. And believe me, they've got the cash to do it, and it's just a rounding error.
Well, Todd, if you think about it from a competitive perspective, we're getting in a situation where it's a very competitive landscape out there for listeners.
Yeah.
Right? You think about all these big companies all vying for users, right? And you think about, let's say 100,000 podcasters working together to limit and license their distribution of their shows.
Right.
Whoever's willing to do the deal gets the content
and gets the listeners.
Don't.
Right. And they get the listeners.
Right. So, there's a little bit of competitive motivation there to do a deal.
Right.
If you walk away from that deal, guess what? Your content catalog whittles down to just your exclusive shows or your originally produced programs, and some free shows that are not part of that aggregated licensing deal.
Right.
Yeah, which puts you in a competitive disadvantage in the market.
It is something to consider.
Yeah.
Todd at blueberry.com.
I don't know that we're going to talk about it on stage in Podcast Movement, but yeah.
Boy.
Yeah.
It's an idea.
It is an idea.
It is an idea.
The further we get into this and the more competitive it is on a global scale, the more viable it is, frankly.
Right. It is. There's a lot of podcasters that listen to this show. Have I hit a nerve? Rob and I hit a nerve today. I guess thinking about this, going, damn. I get my content for free. I'm getting nothing.
Yeah.
Advertisers aren't paying attention to me because I don't have 10,000 plus listeners per episode. I've got an audience that loves me and is supporting, and I got great engagement.
Do we have a reason for a podcast association now, Todd?
Podcast Association won't do this.
It could.
Oh, it could. But, yeah, maybe. But again, let's be frank here. What we're talking about potentially is real dollars, and agendas. This. I don't think this is possible. I think this has to be a private enterprise thing, because I don't know. I just don't think the bylaws would have to be really, really be very, very careful in order to protect the shows. There'd have to be strong bylaws in place that wouldn't turn this into, someone's retirement plan.
Yeah.
It has to be something that takes care of the creators. If you're going to form a podcast organization that would do this and raise enough hell, because I'm going to tell you, you start, there's a few people that are listening to this thinking, what would happen?
Yeah.
How long would it take? 2 years? 3 years?
I don't know.
And how much money would it take to convince podcasters that?
Right.
And if they're not making any money now, what's the risk?
Well, and who qualifies to be involved is another
That's
question.
true. That's true.
That's a difficult one.
Well, I think too is in order to. I don't think so. I think it's you win in volume.
Yeah,
there should be no restriction. If a person has 100 people that listens to a show, and he's doing it.
Todd, I don't think that the listening platforms are going to value a show that more than likely a show that's only produced once every 90 days.
But if there is 100,000 shows,
right,
with those all
in, show is.
If they're all in, it runs the gambit.
Right. It depends on what the show is. It could be a short series too. It could be a 13-episode storytelling program, right? That has long-term value, just like an audiobook has. Right?
So if let's say there was 100 anchors, we shouldn't use that word.
Right.
Let's say there's 100 key player shows.
Right.
All right. And you have 900 other shows that are, like this show.
Right.
Okay. And
that have a good size audience, but are not huge. Right?
Again, we don't care what the 900, we don't care what the size of them are. Right. We don't care. We don't care if they got 10 or 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 listeners, but we need at least 100 shows that are, moving some traffic.
But won't the listening platforms have that criteria?
No,
the size of the shows.
No, because what you do is it's just like ESPN and Disney. You want it, you have to buy it all.
Right.
You can't you can't have one.
Can't cherry pick.
You can't cherry pick. You want them, you got to buy the package. And here's what the package costs.
Right.
If you want those 100 that are front line and those 900 others, that is the channel 862 on cable.
So what would the pathway be? So let's say you're a new show creator and you launch, right? You don't get automatically added to this package.
Why not?
Licensed, right?
Why not?
Don't you have to apply?
Why not?
Well, I mean, you have to apply.
Why?
Right? Because the entity has to represent you to the listening platforms.
Rob, Spotify only really cares about the frontline shows.
I know. Yeah.
So you one come, all come.
Right.
And maybe there has to be, you have to produce a show once a week, or there has to be something, some baseline. Maybe you have to produce 7 episodes or 10 before you can join, or whatever. Whatever the requirements is, but it should be real low.
Yeah.
And then
as low as you can push it.
As low as you can push it.
Get acceptance.
And understand that this is a play to get a massive number of shows.
Right.
To go now, what? Okay, so then the podcaster's going to say, well, what is in it for me? Well, it's going to be a distribution model of money based upon show size. And you're not going to be prevented from doing advertising deals. You can still do advertising deals on your own if you get one. This is just basically all this is a distribution deal. Disney still runs, and ESPN still runs advertising in their content. And guess what? They get paid for that advertising. That doesn't go to the cable company. The cable company might get a spot or 2.
Well, can a larger network like an ESPN or a Vox Media tie into this as well?
Why aren't they doing this already themselves? They're big enough.
So this may not be just for smaller shows. This could be a package that larger networks take advantage of too.
But ESPN can do that deal on their own. Disney can go out and say, you're no longer getting ESPN shows on Spotify.
But I don't think they are currently.
Someone should go look.
Maybe they are.
If they're not, then that maybe they're waiting for a deal. But that's what I would, if I had a big network of heavy hitter shows, do just like NPR did. NPR's smart. I don't know what they got in money. Who cares? There's no additional lift. Here's the beauty of it. The NPR stuff is going. It's accessible. There was no lift on NPR's part to put that content on Deezer. Here's our RSS feeds. Go ahead and pull them. There's no lift. There's only now NPR can say, all right, 5% is going to Deezer, so we can bill 5% more advertising revenue to our advertising companies. And guess what? We get money for Deezer because they want the content.
Well, the listening platforms are going to want something in exchange.
No.
Access to be able to sell advertising.
Well, around it.
Right.
But what you get is the content. You know, Disney, I'm sure, says to, you know, you watch it during the Super Bowl. You have 2 or 3 advertisements from the local broadcaster.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's the rest of it's the network ads. So, you know, if as long as you're paying for the content, you can go ahead and run a pre-roll or post or wherever you want to place it. And I'm still going to advertise in my content. You're not getting a dime of that. No, you can work the deal any way you want. Just depends on how strong of a package you have to sell.
Right.
Why does Google TV had to drop 10 or 12 channels because they couldn't get the deal done for the licensing of that content, and they had to remove that from their package, and it lowered the value of Google TV for a period of time until they were able to sign that deal to get that content back on there. Mm-hmm. We're you know, with the modernized podcast, we're all idiots. We're giving stuff away.
Yeah.
In the early, okay, and why are we talking about this? Because things have changed. If the advertising dollars had rolled down into the smaller shows, we probably wouldn't be having this discussion. If the media buyers had paid attention to the 95, 96, 97% shows that aren't being monetized,
right,
we wouldn't have this conversation because everyone would be getting earnings from their podcast through ad revenue.
But the ad buyers have been cherry picking on the media.
Cherry picking.
And that's what this is really all about. It's about cherry picking.
Yeah.
We're only picking the most popular and the ones that are going to benefit us the most.
So there was a discussion you and I were involved in at NAB that sticks in my mind anytime I'm talking about this particular topic. Do you remember who we were talking to? We were talking to Lisa.
Oh, yeah, right.
All right. And who we're talking to is Leo Laporte's significant other. I think they're married, aren't they?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we're talking about advertising deals. And I was pissed off at the time because I'd had an ad deal come through and I, did the work, and then the media buyer came back and cherry picked shows, and I was pissed. And she said, let them be pissed. I don't sell it to them. They take the whole thing or they take nothing. I was like, oh, I'd never throw the hammer down like that before. I'd never taken it back. But when you do that, you have to tell all those shows that are involved with, hey, we're in this fight together. Don't any of you do a one-off with this company because
you're going to lose your bargaining power, right?
We want this. So you have to have some sort of an agreement in place. Now, and when it comes to advertising, this is distribution. This is not advertising. So there is no, people are watching on Facebook. There's no comments. Who's watching right now? That's what I want to know. Who's watching right now? You guys are not saying anything. When it's silent like this on the stream, how many people are watching on YouTube? Wow, we got a bunch of people watching on YouTube.
They all have their mouse on the table, Todd.
No, they don't.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding.
But okay, so
I mean, it is a real revolutionary thought that the industry could head that way. Yeah.
Todd at blueberry.com.
Does that compromise the open aspects of the medium?
Nope. Because guess what? Podcasters have the ultimate choice on where they want their media to be. I know people today that don't want to be on Spotify. I know people today that don't want to be on iHeart. They purposely choose not to have their shows over there, but they can have them everywhere else.
Right. That's
so,
true.
But if you agree with a coalition and say, and you have to have a target, you gotta have a target. You gotta say, okay, we're internally, we're going to still stay on iHeart. We're going to stay on Amazon, but all the rest of the shows, we're going to pull them from Spotify, and then we're going to go for the distribution deal. Mm-hmm. If we can get them to sign, then we pull out of another network, but that's right. Like I said, herding cats. And you got to have enough people that are quite frankly, get pissed off enough or want to be like the early days of podcasting where we stick it to the man.
Well, we're trying to partner our way to success here, Todd, aren't we?
Well, I there's something here. The question is,
when and how does it get started is the question.
And how do we bring everybody along? As many as we can.
That's a hard question.
Right. Because ultimately, shows that are big enough are going to be able to do their own
deals.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're already starting to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you've got a show that's, but the shows they're talking, like this show they did, Amazon, that did that deal with that show was supposedly getting 3 million listens or downloads an episode.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who's measuring them, but
yeah, I'm not sure either. I can go look really quick, see what I can find out.
Oh, probably Art19.
Let's see.
So, again, are we just being old curmudgeons here, or is there something here?
Yeah, it's a good question, Todd.
So I'm sure we're going to hear some commentary about this. But I really don't think it works without a big pile of cash to incentivize it in the early days to get enough people, to get enough shows. And here's the problem too, is that the deals have to be flexible enough, and we know that people quit podcasting. So what do you tell if there's 5,000 shows in this coalition? We say, hey, you can't quit for the next 2 years. Or the next year, or there has to be provisions in there where
you have to be a serious if you're going to license your content, you have to commit.
You have to commit. Yeah.
And that's also one of the
it'll be very hard. Very hard, because
one of the limitations on participation, I think, to some degree, is that some people may not want to make that kind of commitment.
Because you're going to have at least a 1-year commitment, maybe as much as 3. And you're going to have to, because if you're counted on, we've rolled everyone's numbers up and said, okay, we're bringing you 500 million downloads or 500 million, this is what this is delivering outside of your network.
Right.
And they're going to do their internal math, and they're going to say, well, that probably equates to 50 million on my platform per month, or whatever it may be, whatever their percentage is. But then again, if you look at the global consumption numbers,
Mm-hmm.
Spotify, Amazon, they're not making much of a dent. Percentage-wise.
It's still dominated by Spotify and Apple.
Well, Spotify, I don't know. I don't see Spotify numbers going up. So they're making big announcements, making big splashes in news, but is it really equating to more listeners for podcasters? I don't know. I don't think so. For the majority of shows, it's not. There's some that have heavy Spotify audiences.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we're not in, this show is not in the demo of a Spotify listener.
Oh, that's true.
So there's that dynamic as well. But we're on Spotify. We get our 10 or 15 downloads off Spotify, whatever it is.
Yeah. I haven't been able to figure out where that SmartList podcast is being hosted. They've got it pretty much buried in the code. I mean, I could probably, if I looked in Apple, I might be able to find it.
When you get their RSS feed, you should be able to see.
Yeah, they don't make the RSS feed available.
What?
Off of their website.
I've got a little tool that does a little lookup thing. We can get their. You give me their Apple ID, I can get their RSS feed.
Yeah. Can go. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, Rob, go ahead and give me their. Do you know what their? Let me look here. iTunes.
It's
give me their number.
It looks like 152-157.
Yep.
8868.
All right, let me do the lookup. They're being served by Simplecast.
Simplecast. Okay.
And let me load that feed. And let's search for MP3. Okay, so yeah, it's being fed by Simplecast. Simplecast is their host.
Yeah. And who owns Simplecast?
Go ahead and enlighten our audience.
I believe it's SiriusXM, right?
I think so too. I think that's what. Did they get bought? Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
So that's
little
yeah.
conflict there. Yeah.
So probably not for much longer.
Probably not. I have a feeling that they're going to wind up being on Art 19.
Probably.
So, Todd, I'm going to be speaking at a new podcasting conference called Podlines, PodCon in the Middle East coming up next week.
Yeah, they texted me on LinkedIn looking for my email, but I was about a week late responding to them, so maybe they've already filled their speaking thing.
Well, they're kind of running at this a little bit hot right now, so I still don't have my speaking time yet. So,
well, I'll keep an eye out for their email. I've got a few presentations in the can, so.
Right.
So yeah, the Middle East podcasting thing is heating up.
Yeah. It's called Podlines, and they're calling the event PodCon, which I thought was interesting.
Okay, cool.
It's on July 7th. It's going to be in kind of, a time zone that's kind of not ideal for consumption here in the U.S. But
what time of the day do you have to be up to do it?
Well, they're like, what are they, like 7-8 hours ahead of us?
What country?
I don't. I think they're Dubai or something like that.
Oh, I
I'm not
think
really
it's.
sure which country that is.
Let's see here. What time is it in Dubai? So
It's
right,
that time zone.
they're
Right.
GMT plus 4, so it's 12:22 a.m. right now there.
Okay.
So they're on Eastern. They're 8 hours ahead of us.
Yeah, I figured they were at least 8 hours ahead of us. Yeah.
Yeah. So that sounds like a 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning thing for. Ouch.
Yep.
So July 7th is actually, and they're a day ahead. So we'll run it pretty much a day ahead.
Yeah.
No.
So that would be on the 6th, our time.
Yeah,
right?
6th in the morning, depending on what time the conference is. So.
Right.
I'm so used to going the other way, going to Asia. My brain, all
Yeah.
and actually to think about it, that's not that many time zones. That's not that much different. It's only
Oh.
8 hours. It's like 12 or 13 hours to Japan difference. It's just it's literally flip your clock. It's
Right.
from the East Coast. Not so bad from Hawaii, but definitely harder thing to do. Well, anyway, we've covered an interesting topic today.
Yeah, we did.
How should I title the show? Is it time for a revolution in podcast distribution?
Podcast revolution. No, just I don't know. I can't think of what that title might be, but
It's got to be some sort of clickbait.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And maybe the
So-
audience can come up with a good title for the show. And I do apologize. The last episode was woefully late getting out, but it is out.
Okay.
So,
Sounds
Huh.
good.
boy, we've set ourselves up here. We probably picked a wrong show to talk about distribution and
Right. Yeah. Probably.
we will not be talking about this at Podcast Movement.
No, we won't be. Right. So, and I also heard that Clubhouse has added its own internal messaging system. I don't think it's been rolled out. It's called Back Channel. I don't know if you heard about that, Todd.
Mm-mm.
So audience members are going to be able to talk to each other
Oh,
directly.
Will you
Right
be
in
able
the
to
middle of
do?
sessions.
Will you be able to do guest screening with this Back Channel thing?
It's an interesting question. I'm not sure.
That would be really good if they did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm back to doing something, at least one session over there every week. So
Wow. Is the crowd still there?
yeah, there's still a lot of people there. The Club Pod community over there
Mhm.
surpassed Podcast Movement's following size over there. I think they're at like 45,000 people or
That's
something
impressive.
like that. Yeah. So
How are they monetizing that?
I don't know. I'm not sure if they are.
You get
So-
45,000 people following a specific group. That's Steve. How are you monetizing it?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I'm not sure. I mean, we're both part of that Club
Right.
Pod
Right.
hosting,
I think I was a
Wow.
tag along because of you.
right?
And I did create a group last week, but I haven't done anything with it since. So, or whatever they call it over their channel or
Mhm.
club.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a big community. So there's a lot of work going into Podcast Movement too. I know we're trying to organize and get stuff pulled together and get materials made and booth materials pulled together, and so things are heating up pretty fast over there.
So, what you guys doing, Rob? What do you guys anything special?
Just just trying to update all the materials and
Mm.
get the booth banners and all this kind of stuff. I mean, because we did acquire 3 companies, so that's going to add another
Oh
layer.
my God. How many people do you have at the booth? 20?
I don't think we have that many. I think we're going to have to space people out quite a bit. So there's not going to be as many people there.
You guys got a 20-foot booth or 10?
20.
Yeah.
20, and then the advertised cast folks have their own booth out in the main hallway.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So there's going to be two different locations.
That'll be interesting
So,
how that split that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
So-
we'll make sure we know. Well, anyway, I think it's going to be fun no matter what. It's going to be good
And
to get back.
the Podcast Academy is having a party that we're hosting on Wednesday night.
Oh, really?
From 7 to 10 p.m.
So bar and hors d'oeuvres, or what are we? What's the plan?
I'm not really sure of all the details on all that kind of stuff. I'm not really organizing that part of it, but yeah, it's going to be a full-fledged after-hours event party I think it's the main party on Wednesday night.
All right, awesome. I've got my renewal notice in email. Matter of fact, you guys have hit me twice there, so you're looking to refill the coffers, aren't you?
Well, we're actually looking to grow beyond that as well. So that's why we're doing a panel session at Podcast Movement. Plus, we're doing this party.
But Rob,
what?
You need to take back to the company or the team. You guys need to start delivering some of the other stuff you said you were going to deliver, because they've just had awards. They haven't really had resources and stuff like that.
Well, we're putting together more and more kind of professional training activities in the organization. Plus, I'm going to be chairing the new global expansion committee that's going to be kicking off here soon too.
All right. Well, good.
So
good on that.
to try and get more participation outside of the U.S.
Gotcha. Well, we held a bunch of you all the way to the end. We want to thank you for hanging out here. If you're not following, or if you are not yet subscribed, as I like to call it, we definitely want you to get over to newmediashow.com, and we want you to follow and or subscribe to the show on the platform of your choice for now. Rob and I aren't going to, maybe we should start leading the pack, Rob. Maybe we should pull our show off one of these platforms just to kick it off. But yeah,
just to see what happens. Probably nothing.
Nothing.
No, I did want to mention one thing, Todd. Have you checked out or you tried these new Echo Frames smart glasses?
I didn't even know what they are.
Amazon announced a new prescription eyeglasses. They're called smart glasses. The Echo Frames smart glasses that has the Alexa integration in them.
Oh, you just triggered a whole bunch of devices.
I know I did. I'm sorry about that. And it from what I understand, it has speaker capability in the glasses, so you can actually listen to podcasts through glasses from Amazon now.
So I'm searching. It's Echo Frame
Smart glasses.
Oh my God, they have definitely not won the search result on that one. They had a paid ad. How much are they? $237.
Something like that. Yeah.
And okay, I'm just going to share something with everyone. I'm going to bring those of you watching. Please don't take this the wrong way.
Well, these glasses raise a lot of questions, Todd, when you really think about it.
Right. But let me just kind of tell you about when I was in the early days of Navy, they had these black rim glasses that they gave all the recruits. And these are, well, Mike knows where I'm going with this. Mike's watching. And matter of fact, I should try to find a picture of those to give you guys a comparison. But we used to call them BC glasses. Do you know what that stands?
They're definitely better than the Google Glass.
Okay, but
from an earlier era, right?
Do you know what BC glasses are? Let me try to find them. Find an image of them.
BC glasses. I'm trying to think of what that
Oh,
would be an acronym for.
Okay, so let me find an image. Because, all right, here we go. This is a Google search. You see these are actually kind of modern. They got brown, they're brown frames.
Mm-hmm.
We call them BC glasses because we call them birth control glasses. Anyone wearing one of these pair of glasses was not getting laid.
Birth control. I knew it was an acronym that was going to make me laugh.
So here's another. Just look at these styling glasses. Yeah, there was a standard military issue. Definitely, yes. They call it military drops BC glasses. So there was even previous. They're pretty ugly. So I'm looking at these ones from Amazon, and they kind of resemble. They could help. They could use some help with the design.
The styling.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying, Todd?
Yeah.
I think they need to do a deal with Warby Parker or somebody like
Oakley
that.
or somebody. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've worn Oakleys now for 3 or 4, maybe 5 years, and I can't wear contacts. I just can't stand putting anything in my eyeball. I'd have a hard time wearing these. Okay, so here's the picture of one of their actors. Sorry, Amazon, you guys blew it. It's just, I know you're trying to make a unisex pair of glasses.
It's a first gen.
A second gen. It's a second gen.
Oh, second gen.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
right.
They actually kind of look better on the ladies than they do on the guys. But
Well, if you are expecting these to have like a thin rim or something like that, or a thin frame, that's not possible, because what you want is you want computing power and you want battery.
It
right?
looks to me like it's pretty thin, though. It doesn't.
Well, it is.
They've done a good job of hiding.
Right.
Alexa. Yeah.
Right.
But you can listen to podcast with your frames, huh?
Yep.
They got Bluetooth connectivity to. They've got a blue version too. It looks like they've got a couple of versions, but they all have the same. Same. But $237. I've already got enough. I've already got enough devices on my body that's tracking me and everything else. Do I need another one?
Yeah, I think it's also a prescription.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Right.
That was the problem with the Google glasses. It was really, they didn't till later. You couldn't get a prescription for them. And it was very hard to get a prescription for them. So,
right.
But anyway, very, very cool. Anyway, kind of fun. I hope you guys got a laugh out of the BC glasses. And the military guys got it and ladies that listen to the show understand.
Right.
So,
right.
All right. I'm Todd at Blueberry.com. I'm at Geek News. Rob?
I can be found on Twitter as well, at Rob Greenlee. And I can be found on Clubhouse at Rob Greenlee as well. I can be reached via email, robg@libsyn.com. That's Rob G, not Rob. That'll go to a different Rob.
Yeah.
So,
the Rob G, not Rob. That goes to Rob Walsh.
Yep.
That's the problem with having two Robs at the same company. Maybe someday you'll graduate and get the Rob one.
Oh, well, he's been at the company a lot longer than I have. So
I know.
Got it grandfathered in.
Yes, he did. You guys would have had to have flipped for it before. All right. Anyway, get over to newmeshow.com. Hit the follow button, subscribe button. And did we pique your interest today? If you did, we want to hear some feedback. Or are we just crazy? That's another possibility as well. And we got about $500 million you want to invest in the podcasting space. We got, you've already given the idea. Please give us our finder's fee. So,
Todd, it could be your next business.
I have a business already. So,
you can have two.
I don't know. I
No.
no. So, all right, everyone. We'll see you next time here. Everyone, take care. We'll
All
see you
right.
next Wednesday here
Okay.
on the New Media Show. 3:00. 3:00 Eastern
Right.
is when we get going, or thereabouts, or 3:07 or 3:10, something like that. All right, everyone. Take care. We'll see you next time. Bye
All
bye.
right. Bye.